Let's get right into this thing. I hope you all enjoy it, and make sure to subscribe if you guys are enjoying the content that we are, producing and bringing out on the YouTube channel as well as on Twitch. So let's get into it. So as I stated, guys, our first topic of the day is The Last of Us Part 2, and I want to give you guys some of my thoughts on The Last of Us Part 2. Overall, guys, in my review, I had stated how I had, at the end of the day, I kind of stayed away from spoilers overall, and I, was able to kind of just go into The Last of Us Part 2 with an open mind and play it from beginning to end. And I've got to say, overall, I thought what Naughty Dog accomplished is something absolutely remarkable. I thought it was a great experience. It's not for everybody. It's certainly not an experience that's for everybody. This is from a guy who is a big horror fan, someone who loves horror movies and horror games. I loved the concept that this was a game that had you on the edge of your seat on a consistent basis throughout the course of the runtime. And I gotta say that I absolutely loved that about this game. I loved being at the edge of my seat, being, very uncomfortable throughout the different segments within the game, having terrifying moments and such. Absolutely loved that about The Last of Us Part 2. Now, were there things that I did not enjoy about it? Sure, but that's how it is with any game, guys. There's going to be things that we enjoy, things that we don't enjoy. Obviously, guys, this show is going to be, kind of diving into, spoiler territory and such, so definitely just be aware of that. What I will say is that The Last of Us Part 2 absolutely it deserves your playthrough. It deserves, and I think that you would absolutely... I think that if you're a big fan of the first game especially, you would certainly want to play this at least. You might not enjoy it as much as the first, you might like it even more than the first one, but it's definitely worth the playthrough in my personal opinion, because it's such a, from a graphical standpoint to a story perspective, as far as like kind of where they went with the story and such, some things we enjoyed, some things, I didn't enjoy, which I'll get to here in a sec. As far as the story is concerned though, guys, I actually thought it was pretty good. I really did. Half the game playing as Ellie, half the game playing as Abby. And I gotta say, I liked Abby's half more than Ellie's. I thought that Abby's half of the game was a little more interesting. I was very interested to see kind of like where her living situation to everything. And they kind of showed all of those things. Ellie was a little bit, not as slow, but it was more, not as eventful as Abby's segment of the game. And what I will say is at the end of the game, obviously, it kind of goes back and forth between Abby and Ellie, and I really liked that as well. But overall, guys, I really liked this game as a whole, the totality of Last of Us Part 2, what they were trying to, do. I thought that they really knocked it out of the park in a major way. Now, sure, as far as Joel and the big backlash that happened with Joel, of course, the way in which he was murdered within this game was something a lot of people didn't like. I'm one of those people, though. I actually kind of thought Joel may very well die in this game, simply because it seemed like they were moving on from Joel as far as Naughty Dog, and the torch was being passed from Joel to Ellie, and I thought that there might be segments where we play as Joel and then segments as Ellie. I thought that that was something that might happen, kind of similar to what happened in The Last of Us Part 1, but they went in a different direction. My gripe and my problem is not with so much that he died in the game, it's the way in which he was treated throughout the course of the story. I didn't like how everyone, it seemed, didn't like Joel at the end of the day. They just didn't really find him as a good person, or they just didn't enjoy him as his company and such. And that goes from Ellie to a lot of the other characters within the game. And Joel kind of became very soft-spoken, which I was okay with, but I didn't like this concept that, after everything him and Ellie had been through, the way that she treated him in particular was something that, in my opinion, was just disgraceful. I did not like the way that he was treated, and I think that for a lot of people, they also didn't like the way he was treated throughout the game, and on top of all of that, the way in which he was murdered just kind of added that fuel to the fire. I've stated this as well, guys, that there's 3 parts to The Last of Us Part 2, in my opinion. This is a game of pain. It is a game of revenge, and it's a game of forgiveness. It's kind of like those three things: pain, revenge, and forgiveness. It's three big things within this tale. And I really respected what Naughty Dog was going for here. Sure, like I said, I didn't like the way Joel was treated. I didn't at times like the direction they were taking Ellie's character, but even at the very end when they showed that she was almost kind of making up with Joel, it just, I don't know, it kind of felt, it just felt a little bit too little too late, so to speak. But nonetheless, what I'll say, guys, is that this game is certainly about pain. Like, people, loss, all of those things that, happen in life, guys. I mean, these are real things that happen, pain, loss, and things of that nature. Now, revenge is something else that does happen in our world. And throughout the course of the story, I mean, we see both sides. And that's why, for me, guys, a lot of people just didn't like Abby, because people didn't like that we were forced to essentially play as her, if you wanted to play the second half of the game. But I totally got the concept that, Abby's lost a lot as well. She lost her dad, who was murdered, of course, by none other than Joel, and that's why there was that revenge on it, the revenge tale kind of started there. And then, of course, Ellie going after Abby. And so at the end of the day, there was that pain from all characters throughout the course of this story. Then, the revenge tale that was kind of more so, I mean, it was like kind of both sides just going at each other in a major way. And then at the very end, when it was all said and done, Ellie had all the power, to be able to take, Abby's life. She decided not to. And it's almost like she forgave Abby. And I thought that was a really powerful thing. It just shows, guys, that forgiveness is a powerful thing that we as humans, we all, have the capability of utilizing at times from people who have hurt us in the past, and things of that nature. No matter how bad or how good it's been, there's always a place for forgiveness. And I thought that was a really powerful thing. Now, I think it would have been really cool to have the option to save Abby or to kill her at the end of the game. I thought that would have been an interesting concept. We didn't get that. And I think a lot of it would have, obviously, there would have been a lot of question marks as to what's canon moving into The Last of Us Part 3. But nonetheless, I loved the concept that Naughty Dog put out there. And overall, guys, I just really liked the game. I loved The Last of Us Part 2. I was very uncomfortable at times playing it. And that's the type of thing that I enjoy when it comes to like the horror genre as a whole. You want to have those tense feelings, those unnerving feelings, and the feeling of, feeling helpless at times, that feeling of, not wanting to go down that hallway, but it's forcing you to. Those things Naughty Dog has done such an incredible job with here with The Last of Us Part 2. Overall, though, guys, like I said, I really enjoyed The Last of Us Part 2. Did I enjoy it more than The Last of Us Part 1? It's hard to say. I got to play it a couple more times, guys. My knee-jerk reaction is I liked things about The Last of Us Part 2 more, but there's also things I didn't like as much as the first one. One of the things I didn't like as much as the first one was I love the concept of going across the United States with Joel and Ellie and really seeing this, father-daughter type of like relationship happening before our eyes, and going through like different places like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is close to home for me, and actually going through there was, in this like, post-apocalyptic type of way, was something unlike anything I've really ever experienced before in video games. And so I loved that concept. This was different. This was more in like one location, that being Seattle. But I just really enjoyed, certain things about The Last of Us Part 2 more than that of the first one. And there was things I liked about the first one more than the second. So I got to play it a couple more times. But all in all, guys, I think it was a great sequel, in my personal opinion. And look, everyone's going to be entitled to their own opinions, guys. I know there's been a lot of people who've stated that there's a lot of loopholes. There's a lot of like, story holes and, such within the story. I thought it was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. I really enjoyed the way that they did the story. Overall, I just didn't like the way they treated Joel at the end of the day. But there's always going to be things that we can be nitpicky about, guys, moving from, one game to another. And I respect that Naughty Dog took some significant risks here, and I really think it did pay off, even though there's a lot of backlash and a lot of, the criticism of Naughty Dog as a whole was it was pretty major, and I thought that a lot of it was unnecessary. But I understand why some people didn't enjoy the game, maybe as much as I did. So that, guys, were, just some knee-jerk reactions to The Last of Us Part 2. And I can't wait to see where this franchise, the direction it heads in. And it's unlike any game I've ever played, any franchise I've ever played. And that's, something that I find have a real special place in my heart for The Last of Us. And that's why I decided to make a show based solely around this franchise. But with that, guys, let me know, what were your thoughts about The Last of Us Part 2? Now that things have kind of cooled down, things are kind of, obviously it's been out for a little while. You might have had a chance to play the game all the way through or beat it a couple of times. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let's have a real conversation about it.